So good morning, good afternoon or good evening whenever you are watching this, and welcome to the Down the Lane podcast. Got a lot to catch up on tonight. We did do one last week, but Bobbie had some internet issues and it just wasn't possible for me to piece it all together before I went away on Thursday morning. So I'm going to start off with the news early last week, that a couple of supporters have been banned for different stuff or for stuff that had gone on at the club. We're not going to touch on that individually. I understand there could be possibly an appeals process, but I think that's been done to death. I think the people that the individuals concerned are known to most people, and they're dealing with it in their own way. So we're going to leave that there, and I think that's fair to all parties, to the club and to the supporters themselves. We then move on to Tuesday, where we played the Senior Cup against Horsham YM. I couldn't get down there. 5-0 victory. Bobbie and Miles, you were there. Miles, your thoughts?
It was sort of a professional performance in the end. We made hard work at the first half. Sort of huffed and puffed, didn't really create much. Horsham looked to sort of slowly getting down, be quite solid, as to expect. And then, ironically, when we went down to 10 men, the game opened up a bit. We scored a few set pieces, particularly through Leif. Which was pleasing to see, and ran out professional 5-0 winners, which is sort of what everyone expected when they went into the ground. I think to us to win and by a few goals. The red card incident was a bit strange from Tate. I thought the first booking was dubious. He sort of clashed heads with the Horsham YM player. Didn't look like a booking to me, just like a routine mate. Potentially a foul, even like a drop ball. I don't think it was even a foul. I think they just went up for a header and he got unlucky, really. So it was a strange card. And then the second one was silly from Tate. He's on a booking already, whether it's justified or not. Pulls his man back and gets a second yellow to get sent off. So that was disappointing. But the lads responded well. It might have made Horsham sort of maybe kick on, push up a bit more, which then left some space in behind. It was good to see Zach Tarrant get a goal as well. He's made a couple of appearances now for us. Nice to see him get off the bench for some minutes, as well as Kadrich, and then for Zach to score. On to the game against Brighton under 23s or 21s in a few weeks' time for the semi-final. We've got more pressing matters to deal with, obviously, in a relegation fight. But still, it's nice to have something to cheer about and hope we get to the final.
Bob, anything to add to that on the Horsham YM game?
Listen, obviously we deserve to win. I think I listened to their gaffer's post-match interview, and he said that he was happy at how they played for the first half, and that I think he was quite upset with our set piece goals. I think he blamed one of their players in particular, probably the bloke who tried to square up to Leif, which was quite funny. And then Leif dunking 2 goals past them. So yeah, I think we deserved it. Obviously, as Miles said, the red card was they thought the red card would kill us, but I think if you look back at 10 men and listen, we're a National League South side, they're a County Prem side, it showed the difference. So yeah.
And then obviously we moved on to Salisbury away on Saturday. Bobbie, your thoughts?
Obviously me and Joe got the train up. We left at about 8:15, and we obviously met you, Baz. But I think if you got the game and you got Salisbury itself, I think I preferred Salisbury as a city to the actual game. But no, listen, for the first half I thought we looked all right. I think the final the pitch wasn't great in our favour. I think we had a couple in the final third. We looked kind of out of place. I mean, we had one with Burgess, I think 3-on-2 with Burgess, Kai and George, and Burgess's final pass just didn't even beat. He had Kai to his left, and the bobble on the pitch just killed it. And listen, we came close. Kai had a really good free kick that just literally, I think, pretty much skimmed the bar onto the roof of the net. I think George and Grouty both had chances, but then the second half, I think. I was not saying half a second. At the first half, I thought we had a lot of space in their midfield, and we were getting balls through May, playing out from keeper, playing out from Lifra into May or Eastman, and then just be able to get a ball through. And then in the second half, they changed tactics. They kind of swapped round. They went from having but they weren't having their midfield open to us. I think we still kept on trying to go for the middle. George obviously had a goal ruled out for a dubious offside. It's just obviously they scored two. The goals they scored were poor. It's just from our end. Their first one was a great volley, but we've got to clear the lines. We've not even hoofed up the pitch. We've cleared to the edge of the box, and their midfielder just smacked it on the volley. And then the second one, we've got the ball on the left-hand side of the box, and we've just not dealt with it, and they've scored again. I thought the full-backs looked poor, all of them that came on. We changed to a 3 with 10 minutes to go. I think we just tried to get a goal or maybe trying to get a consolation. Listen, we had a chance. We had another chance through George and Corbett, and yet again that came to nothing. That came to Corbett putting the ball pretty much over the fence and nearly hitting the coach window. So yeah, it's a performance to probably forget. I mean, we've still got not 10 Big 10 Cup finals to go. We've got Ebbsfleet tomorrow. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I thought the same as you, really, Bob. I thought there was a couple of times in the first half the ball just didn't run for us. It hit that bobble. I think it was 2 or 3 occasions where, you just and sitting in the stands. I think where we were sitting, because normally we're obviously standing around the goal, and we were sort of sitting on the side there. I think you could see it better there. Probably from behind the goal, it looked like it was just bad control, but it wasn't. It was just a bobble of the ball, and it just never went for us. And I thought, to be fair, I think it was a performance that maybe some tired legs. We're struggling with a bit of injuries at the moment, and players are putting their minutes in, but I think we desperately need some of these players back. Hopefully, I was pleased to see Burgess in the side, because obviously after he went off at Hampton, I thought that could have been. West Ham had just gone 1-0 up. Yes, I thought that could have been a bit of a longer one. So pleased to see him back. But yeah, I just thought that it was one of them games, like you, Bob. They came out second half to start the second half, and they just kind of went slightly. They went at us for that first sort of 10-15 minutes, and I think the game was probably done then, if I'm honest. We obviously we don't like that. But that's the way it was. Miles, anything to add on Saturday?
Just to mention the goal that was ruled out for George. Looked like from the pictures and videos we've seen, looking back on it, it was onside. So disappointed. You can't rely on officials in this league, as we've seen time and time again. VAR is far off National League South at this point, Bob. So you might have to wait a few years for that one. But yeah,
we've got to get the officials right first.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they got to be competent enough to use technology, right? So yeah, it was one of those where at the time I wasn't sure. It was quite tight, but looking back, it looked on. So maybe if we got that goal, would have given us the lift, and then made Salisbury sort of come at us and gave us more space in behind. But we'll never know. And like I say, it was still 0-0 at that point when it was called out, or ruled out. So we can't be blaming the officials at all. I think after that point, they had their best player in the game and scored twice past us. So disappointing, because Salisbury are down there, right? Like they were before the game. I think sort of several points ahead of us, about 6 or 7, and now they're 9 or 10 points clear, I think now. So they'll be looking fairly safe if they can get a win or two towards the back end of the season. But we can't dwell on it too much, because under Robbie, which obviously now Robbie's last game for us was Saturday, even though we didn't know at the time. We had a decent run, getting a couple of wins and losses against Dorking, who are league leaders, and Salisbury. Salisbury, the only really one you can really look at and think we've done a poor job. So to have one off game in 5 games in charge was, you can't really complain, considering what the horrendous run we had, from January, really, wasn't it, to about mid-February. So disappointed. I didn't even get to see much of Salisbury either, because I flew in at about quarter to 3 after driving from work at 12, and my car semi broke down in the morning. So wasn't the best away day, I can't lie. I had better after a 2-0 loss as well. It would have been nice if we won to make up for it, but here we are. I made it in the end, which is the main goal. So moving on to a couple of home games, but a bit easy to get to.
Yeah, starting on Tuesday against Ebbsfleet, which will be obviously Steve King's first game in charge. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. Just before we do, here's a word from our sponsors.
Hi guys, I'm Gary. I'm the owner of Polegate Car Sales. If you're looking to buy or sell your vehicle anywhere in the country, I am your man. We're open 7 days a week. Sunday is appointment only, but Ben works 6 till 10 any hour God sends. We look forward to seeing you soon.
So, obviously, we then move on to today's big news. That Robbie Blake is no longer in interim charge and Steve King is our new manager. So, firstly, I think we owe Robbie a massive... I mean, you kind of touched on it before the ads there, Miles. He's done a great job in lifting them players. Bit of a new manager bounce when he came in. And I think a lot of us probably expected him to get it until the end of the season. But obviously we're just supporters, right? We're not the ones that are making them decisions. And the people that are have made the decision that Steve King will be coming in. Very much, I think, a Marmite decision. And I think that shows today on the forum and on some of the tweets, etc. I'm going to go first on this one. I remember the days when we play, when Steve King was at Lewis, and we had Gary Wilson. The football that Lewis played at the time was very attractive, free-flowing football, and it's a job that the man has always wanted. I can't remember a time that it's been available and he hasn't actually applied for it. I've seen Steve around the town a few times, and he's always stopped and had a chat. Wherever he was at the time, this is when he was at other clubs as well. And I've always found Steve a nice guy. Look, I think that the powers that be have decided that Steve will be our manager. I'm not as despondent as others are, or as others seem to be. I'm actually quite looking forward to the fact that he may bring that style of football down the lane, and I think I just think he whatever people say about him, and obviously. The big thing that people say is, he's going to skin your club. He's going to skin your club. He'll spend all your money. You'll go bankrupt in 2 years. Listen, that's down to Alan. That's down to Simon. That's down to maintain the control on that purse, on that budget. And if that's done, and I'm not saying that every club that Steve King has been at that apparently has gone skint afterwards. I mean, we all know in this type of football, in this level of football, it costs you money to get that promotion. It costs you money to get into them playoffs, and we know that Steve King is a serial winner. He gets teams into the playoffs, and if that costs teams money, when we went up to the National League, we could not afford it. And it very nearly, and if it wasn't for the hard work of a lot of people behind the scenes, I remember times where I saw people that was on the board that would come out of the clubhouse half an hour before the kickoff, and they'd ring their wife and say, cancel that meal tonight, we're not going out now. And that was because at the time the club wasn't skint, but there was a little cash flow problem. and it was like we've got to pay the players after the game, and they'd all dipped in their pockets, and the money that they were going to take their missus out with that night had gone on someone's wages, maybe the centre forward's wages. So, listen, we all know that football at this level can be very expensive, especially when you're looking for that promotion, especially when you're looking for that drive to go up. So I think, and he, it's not only clubs that he's been at that have struggled financially. A lot of clubs in our level and the levels above, have struggled. And I just think that's a football thing. I just think that's a funding thing, that the money doesn't filter down from the top. And if that's, for me, it's not about a budget for this year or for next season or whatever else. It's about the plan going forward. It's about the plan in 3 or 4 years' time. Right? What can we actually afford to spend now, but know that we're still going to be in existence in 2 or 3 years' time? And listen, that's Simon and Alan's job. That's that's the job of the staff at the club. And look, they're not doing that wrong. At the end of the day, we've that's their job. Yeah. So for me, I'm kind of quite looking forward to seeing different style of football. But I will say, I did believe that Robbie would have it until the end of the season, and I think Robbie's done a fantastic job. And I'm glad to hear that he's staying on Steve's team. And I hope that is the case, long term, because I think that Robbie has not only has he been good for the players, I think he's embraced the supporters a lot as well, and he knows that the supporters haven't been overly happy, which we haven't. We've not been seeing the greatest football. I think Robbie's embraced everything at the club. So I really do hope that Robbie does stay on. But like I say, I'm quite optimistic and quite looking forward to seeing what football we start playing under Steve. Miles, you obviously won't remember Steve from when he was managing at Lewis, but what's your thoughts on Steve King?
Yeah, well, I do remember him coming down to us around April time with Dartford and absolutely slapping us. I believe it was 7-2 and we got play up the park, so do remember that.
I remember that game,
yeah, they were absolutely had our number that day. I mean, I've got a lot to say on this, really. I've got a lot to sort of unpack, and I'm not exactly sure what my thoughts are precisely at this moment, because I found out the news on my lunch break at 1:30, so a bit later than everyone else, and it came as a massive surprise, in the sense that, like you just said there, Baz, I thought Robbie would get to the end of the season. Whether that was the right thing to do or not to bring a new manager in, regardless of who they were, again, I'm not really sure, because I think hindsight's a great thing. I think if we stayed up under Robbie, theoretically, everyone would say, brilliant decision to give him the job to the end of the season. And if he went down, people would be saying, why didn't you get a permanent manager in charge? That was stupid. So you realistically can't win that scenario. So if they wanted to get Steve King, which obviously they did, and he's available this time, then I can understand when they've done it, first of all. But obviously I'll put on record my thanks to Robbie for his 4 league games and cup game in charge. I echo everything that Baz says, so I'm not going to go over it all again. But yeah, thank you, Robbie, for your contribution as manager, and hopefully he can have a great impact as coach, as he knows all that squad now and has clearly worked very well with them. So that's my thoughts on Robbie. In terms of Steve King, I'm on the fence with it, because I'm sort of using what I know, as in from his time at Dartford, and what is concrete facts, and then what I've heard about him, which is also, you've got to be careful and take things with a pinch of salt. I want to make my own opinion up on this and not be swayed what other people think. And with that, I'm going to need time. I'm not going to be able to say right now I think it's a good appointment or not. I'll need to see a few games in charge, see how he conducts himself, essentially, see what our activity's like. Then I'll be able to make a better judgment, right? But it turns out what my thoughts are right now. I'll always back a manager. I love Danny Blur when he was at the club, and just going off the recent managers, love Danny Blur. But equally, I didn't agree with him being sacked. But then when Mark B came in, I got behind him. Obviously, Adam coming in, everyone loves Adam. Don't have so much more about, Adam and his value to the club. Equally, when Adam went, then Matt Gray came in. I thought that would be, a good appointment. I got behind Matt fully. Even when it didn't start too well the first few games, I still thought, we could see if we get some more bullies in the door, we can turn this round. And equally, when Tommy came in, I thought, yep, Tommy is a good appointment. Just won the FA Trophy, knows the club, etc. So I always try and look on the positive side of things, and I will try and do that with Steve King as well, definitely. And as you just said there, Baz, his records speaks for itself. Like, you don't go to 4 or 5 clubs in around this level and get success if you're a bad manager. That's just fact. That's just factual. The managers we've had in recent times, Matt Gray, maybe not Adam Murray so much because he's obviously done it with us now and filed, but a few of them had successes at 1 or 2 clubs, but maybe couldn't continue that into multiple clubs. And Steve has showed in multiple clubs that he knows what he's doing, right? So in that sense, it's a great appointment. And if he's always wanted the job, then you'd have thought this one he'll give, everything for, be passionate. He knows the area very well. He's got great contacts in the game. And the thing that reassured me quite well from his interview was how he said about how he's keeping his hand in it as well. Watching games quite a lot, keeping in contact with, players, club situations, because he understands that the game moves on and he's got to adapt to that, which I thought was quite reassuring. You don't want a manager that, he obviously did well in Lewis 20 years ago. You don't want a manager that thinks, oh, it's still the same, I can just do whatever I did back then, it'll still work. It's a different game now, isn't it, right? So that was the reassuring part for me. Style of play wise and how he plays football, I don't know much about, to be honest with you. I'm not too clued up on how he plays, but I've heard it's good, so that's always positive. Obviously, the results right now are the most important thing. I don't care if he win 1-0 off 9 own goals in the next 9 games if he keeps us up. But in time, if we can put that free-flowing football down the lane and get the results, that would be obviously a bonus. In terms of the financial situation, I agree with everything you just said there, Baz. I think if you're Simon and Alan and you're letting Steve King bankrupt the club, theoretically, you're stupid. And I don't think they're that naive to do that. Like, I mean, you have to be a really, really stupid owner, because they have conversations with ex-chairmen that would have been his previous employers. They know people in the game, particularly more Alan than Simon. Respectfully to Simon, he's not been involved in football much for the last, since the last few years. Alan has been involved in football for over 15, 20 years, back to Crawley days, etc. So they'll know people, right, that know Steve. So they must have got character references, talk to clubs, etc. So I don't doubt. I mean, I've doubted a lot of their decisions this season. I've not been afraid to say that, but I don't doubt they've done their diligence and not going to let Simon's not going to put however much money he has into the club and all this time and effort just to see King to come along and ruin it. Like, that's not be silly. So that's my take on the financial situation. They'll give him the budget and they'll work with the budget, and that's how it's been. So I think it could be a good combination in the sense that if he got his contacts, he's got a good network of players, and he's got that lure of bringing players to the club still, hopefully. And if Alan can negotiate their deals, etc., then it could be a good partnership. So. That's me trying to be optimistic on that as well. Like, it's easy to read into all the negative things sometimes, and if there's scope and if there's valid evidence, we do that, and I will. But currently, I'm sort of trying to be on the optimistic side of things in the sense that I think Simon and Alan would have had those sort of conversations, and they're not stupid in the sense they're not going to let him come along and just bankrupt the club. So that's my thoughts on that. On the negative side of things. Sorry to talk a lot, but I've got a lot to bring up. I just feel like there's no smoke without fire with a lot of these things. There's a lot. I mean, Bob put a tweet out, which I'll let Bob expand more on in a second. But it's done the rounds on Twitter, and there's a lot of fans that are very negative about this appointment. They're laughing at us, saying it's horrendous, criticising it. Saying all these things are going to go bankrupt, or he's not a good bloke, which I'm not going to get into personally because I haven't got any facts or evidence against that at all, so it's not fair for me to comment there. But there's no smoke without fire with some of these things. So, like I said, I'll give him a chance, 100%. But I'm dubious to the base that there was a lot of comments and particularly obviously from other fans and from our own fan base too, where people were just completely against it. And I haven't seen that from a manager so far. Like, I've supported Borough for 10 years. Only really been like passionately following the club since around COVID times, so when Blue was in charge. And there's not been a single manager that's come in where people have said, like, our own fans, as well as other fans, like, red flag, don't touch them with a barge pole. So that for me puts my sort of not defences up, but you know what I mean, gets my back up to the point where I think, ooh, okay, no, I'm not entirely sure about this, going into someone who's not fully informed on the situation. So to me, that is a concern, and this is not just people that are Eastbourne Town fans or 16, 17-year-olds. This is people that have followed the club, like, for example, Colin, he's been going against for 20 years. People like Jay, etc. They're all against the appointment of Steve King, which to me just raises alarm bells. So yeah, that is a massive concern. So that's my thoughts. I can't think I've got anything else more to add really than that. So I'll let Bob have his say, and I'm sure there's something else that will come to mind that I'll bring up later on.
Yeah. So listen, you boys say you're on the fence. I'm very much off it. Listen, you boys obviously you were around before me, so it's like a bit more than Steve King than I do. Obviously, listen, the style of play. Listen, what keeps us up is going to keep us up. If we keep up, I'll be happy. That won't change my view on the situation. Like I said, I think Robbie should have been kept. Listen, I respect Robbie. Everything he's done. I mean, he's done such a good job. I thought he was going to keep the job for the season. Obviously, it's nice that he is staying on. Excuse me, but I feel this is a very, very rushed appointment. I think that obviously, as Baz said, we know that Steve King lives in Eastbourne. He's been around the club for a while. He's been waiting for the opportunity, and he's finally got his hands on it. What he does with this opportunity, it's massive. It's detrimental for us as a fan base and as a club. A lot of fans like myself are unhappy. You look at previous clubs he's been to, and look what has happened with him, with him being there, and the clubs itself. Some into financial difficulty, and some he fell out with. I'm not, and as I think Miles said, Simon and Alan aren't going to be stupid, but obviously they're going to let Steve King sign the players he wants. It'd be a bit like Tommy. They'll obviously give him a budget and let him do what he wants with it. Wherever that goes in the next foreseeable future, it happens. But there's a lot of fans in our fan base right now who are concerned that our club may, and hands up, may not exist in 24 months. And I'm quoting what I've already read from someone today. Listen, I mean, go on.
No, sorry, Bob. I was going to say, like, but for me, that's not. Obviously, the Steve King is making the signing, etc. But yeah, I don't see how that's on Steve King. Like, I'm not going to defend the bloke unless I feel like he needs to be defended. But like, if you're Simon and Alan, I'm not sure how much Alan sets the budgets or what the agreement is, but I'll just put them both together. And then the board, I was afraid as the board, if they're setting the budget and Steve King's working within that, and he's not working within that, then that's another conversation. Then you've got to look into action on the back of that, right? It's not. I don't see how these chairmen for so many different clubs like Dartford, Welling, Farnborough, there's a big old list, isn't there? Have they just been too ambitious with Steve in charge? We don't know the full story here. Like, they could have got Steve in and thought, bloody hell, this guy is absolutely brilliant. Which clearly he's got a track record of being brilliant. Like, you don't get Lewis from the Ryman Prem, whatever it was called back then, to the National League. You don't get Farnborough from the Southern League winners, then the Farnborough get into the playoff final in the South, then get to Welling to the South final, then go on a massive cup run with Hendersford, Macclesfield. The list goes on. Dartford, he got to the playoff semi-final, arguably could have won the league that year as well. Like he's got so many clubs he's done well at. Have all these clubs, because clubs right in our level, us included, do have quote unquote ideas above our station. We all want to get to the next level, but that costs a heck of a lot of money. And
Totally
have all
agree.
these clubs, just putting it out there. I'm not saying I think this or agree with this or no, I mean this is factually correct. I'm just putting some ideas out there. Have all these clubs got Steve King on and thought he is shit. He's shit hot essentially. Excuse my French. We got to back him essentially and throw everything at this to try and get us up. This is our chance now because he's the business essentially, and that's led to them getting ideas above their station essentially, overspending, and then it just all falling on its face. It seems a coincidence that happened 4 or 5 times. I'll caveat that my own point, but I mean in terms of because there's been a lot of chat as well about him getting involved in contracts and taking money out of clubs and that sort of thing. Like, how are they allowing him to do that though? Like, if that happens to us, I'm sorry, that's a last straw for me with like Simon and Alan, etc. If that happens to us, that is ridiculous. Like, that's unforgivable. If I'm putting my hard-earned money into the club, like, I know a season ticket in the grand scheme of things, in terms of like Premier League, and that's not drastically expensive, but like in terms of my commitments to this club this year, I've easily put in thousands of pounds. If my money, not saying it's all going to the club because I also go away games as well, if my hard-earned cash has been put into someone that's then taking money out of the club, when they're and rightly so, they're banning people with student tickets, they're putting all these clamps on people taking money out of the club, and absolutely rightly so. If that's going to happen then to us at management level, then I'm sorry, that's unforgivable. So I'm sure Simon Allen won't let this happen. That's why I'm saying all this. But to me, that's not a Steve King. That's not a Steve King issue to some extent. Like if I was at work and I'm giving all my employees overtime, etc., and that's been allowed to happen, then that if I'm not being told off for that, that's not my fault to some extent, is it? Everyone's accountable by their employers, right? And if your employers aren't controlling you well enough, that's their fault to some extent. Like, Baz, before you go, mate, sorry, I've got something else to add, mate. So I'm in full flow now. I'm just in it's all coming out. When Angelo Harrop at Braintree got the sack, when was that? Don't know. Last season, midway through.
Summer.
Roughly.
Midway through.
Yeah. Did have a few games? I can't remember now. But then the chairman just came out like, "Oh, Angelo's gone way above budget this season." Blah 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 blah. So that's why we sacked him. But like, sorry, you set the budget. Like, I don't understand how as a basis. Like, surely someone's authorising these signings. They're not just letting him go out of his chequebook, spending willy nilly, are they? So yeah, I'll let you talk, boys, because that's my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, just coming in on that, Miles, I think you're right, and I think that there is a level of, we don't know what goes on at other clubs, right? We know what goes on at our club because you can go and talk to Alan, you can talk to Simon, you can and you can ask them questions. So we know that at our football club, if Alan has openly said this to us as a fan base, and I'm not just talking about us three, I'm talking about the whole fan base, that when a manager decides he wants a player, he will tell him who he wants, and Alan will go and sort the contracts out. So we know that at our club there is no deals that are done, or there shouldn't be deals that are done, and I don't believe there will be deals that are done without the sign-off of Alan or Simon or John Bonner, whoever it be at the time at the club that is signing that off. And I don't believe for 1 minute that any one of them three or any one of the staff at the club will sign something off that is going to cause us, an issue. Why would they? It's their money that they're investing, right? It's it's their money. It's they own the club. They're going to be, and whatever goes on, they're shrewd businessmen. And when you look at Alan, Alan was at Crawley in 2009. I think it was 2009, might have been 2008 actually, that he started at Crawley. It was around about that time. And I know before he was chief exec, I think he was involved at the club before he actually became the chief exec up there. So he's going to be aware of Steve King because, when we came to like cups like the Sussex Senior Cup and stuff like that, we're all playing each other, So, listen, Alan is going to be aware of Steve King from a management level and from what other clubs have said about him and whatever else. And they have decided to employ him as a manager. So, listen, and it is very Marmite. Look, there's 3 different opinions on it. There's one that's quite excited about what I might see, especially if I see. And, when he was at Lewis, I mean, I'll never forget that season that we both went up. Fantastic season for Sussex football. Fantastic season. You had Lewis and us, and like I say, that was the year that we drew 2-2 at Lewis on the Boxing Day. We were 2-0 down with 5 minutes to go, and that still rates as one of my favourite ever games. Because we lost. We lost a game of football, and all of a sudden, we scored 2 and we got that point, and it was like a massive win for us, even though it was a draw, and a massive loss for Lewis. And obviously there was a rivalry then between the 2 clubs, and the rivalry between the management as well. It was good times. So listen, I've seen Steve in action back then. Now I will say, back then he had a very strong contact book. When it came to times that he might suffer a really crucial injury, there would be a player on loan coming in very, very quickly to cover that position, and a player of quality as well. I'm not just talking about somebody from a lower league. It was generally someone from a higher league coming down. So, listen, he had a really good contact book, and hopefully he's still got that. I don't know. I mean, that's a long time ago, right? But, he said in his interview today that, this season alone he's watched 100 games of football. And he's always about the lane. He's always watched. I've probably seen him down. I've probably seen him at Eastbourne, I don't know, 7 or 8 times this season, maybe 9 times, and that'll be in Matt's time, in Tommy's time, and then there's probably times where I haven't seen him, but he has been there. So, why would he not? He lives so close to it. And he loves football. That's what he does. He's a football manager, and yeah. I mean, like I say, we could all sit here in a year's time and go, you were right, whoever was right. But at the end of the day, I mean, listen, I'm just optimistic to see, and I'll make no bones about it. I have said before, I don't think Steve King is the right man. And I don't think that's because of I don't think that's because of his footballing ability. I think that's because of look,
behind the scenes, behind the scenes of how he manages things, or
no. The man's good at his job, right? The man's good at his job, and he knows it. And I don't want to say this in a horrible way, because I think he's got every right to be. But he sat there today, and when you watch that interview, when Carl was talking to him, he was talking about all the teams that he got. He got promoted or he got to the playoffs and whatever else, right? And some people would look at somebody like that, just talking about, oh, I've done this, I've done that, and say, oh, you're a big head. And that's not in a horrible way, because I think he's very entitled to be very proud of what he's done. He's very entitled to be big-headed about what he's done, because at the end of the day, he was the manager that has put that squad together, or put that team together, and done that. So I don't know, and this is a reason I've said in the past, look, it wouldn't be my choice as manager, and I think there was better people about. It's because I just don't know if that style of person would suit Eastbourne Borough. And I think I'm right in what I've said then. When you go back and look at different things, and people have mentioned Steve before, I think I'm probably right in what I'm saying. Because he is a very Marmite choice. And there's people that are saying, I'm not going to go and watch his football. Or there's people that are, quite excited about it. You know, people that have been watching for a long time. So I think that was why I always thought he wouldn't probably be right for the job. But look, he's got the job now, and that's it. You know, we're not going to change that. Like I say, I'm optimistic about seeing what goes forward, and I think, and I hope, I really do. Obviously, I hope. I'm an Eastbourne Borough supporter, right? I'm a supporter of this club, and have been for a long time. So, and I've already said this season that, and this won't be on Steve. But I've already said many a time this season that if we get relegated, we're coming out of that National League structure that we've been in since the formation, and I would see that as failure. And I can't go against that, because that's what I believe. So, look, at the end of the day, Steve's our manager. I'm quite optimistic. I hope that he does keep us in the division. If he doesn't, I'm probably more confident than I was with Tommy, and probably about the same as I thought I'd be with Robbie. That he would get us back up, but the difference, the big difference between Robbie, who I thought, and I'll say it again, I think Robbie done very, very well with our club, very well in the games. I know sometimes people say, oh, it was just a new manager bounce and whatever else. But I think he done well with the club, and I'm not just talking about the team. But Steve King has got that proven experience of, like you said, Miles, doing it serial times at different clubs with different setups, with different, you know, some were full time, some were hybrid, some were, you know, he's got that, and maybe, you know, maybe we need to give him the chance. I mean, I know, you know, obviously, Bob, you're not over. You're not stuck.
Bob's
on
fuming
it at all. Yeah, you're not stuck on it at all.
Bob's fuming.
At the end of the day, you're not going to stop. You know, and this is what I urge everybody. Listen, just because, you know, and there's three people here. You know, when we go away games, we're all sitting in the same car, right? Just because we have all three got a different opinion on this situation. You know, I'm optimistic. Miles is cautious. Bobbie's not liking it. Doesn't mean we're not gonna, you know, we're not gonna go in a car and we're not gonna sit there and chat about it and whatever else. And I'm sure, you know, the game that we win really well, I'll be going, yeah, I told you so. And you know, if something goes a little bit wrong, Bobbie, you'll be going, I told you so. You know, and that's what it is, right? But listen, yeah.
Just on that, Baz. Just on that though, like with the whole everyone's entitled to an opinion, etc., and has the right to express their opinion. I thought it was a massive concern that we block comments on the Twitter post and maybe the Facebook post. I don't want to say something that's not true there. So I haven't seen the Facebook post.
Facebook got.
Whether that was because they were expecting backlash from other sets of fan negativity, which obviously we have seen, I'm not sure. But I don't want that to become a precedent going forward. We're blocking comments because, you know, whether your forum to give an opinion is a podcast, which as mainly is now, I don't comment much on the forum because I give my opinion on here, whether that be talking at the game, writing something in a newspaper, writing something on social media, like everyone's got a right to an opinion. I'm not talking about abuse here, because obviously abuse, as we've clarified many times, is not acceptable. And there's a very, very small minority that give abuse. You know, a lot of these Eastbourne Borough fans have been going for whether you've been going for a year or 2 or 3 years. I know Craig watches. I know, you know, and Craig's opinion's not any more or less valid than someone that's been watching since we had Langley Sports playing at Prince's Park. Let's not get it twisted. So, yeah, I think it's a worrying precedent if we're going to keep blocking comments and, you know, shutting fans' opinions out. That's what I will say. So everyone's allowed their opinion on things and just keep it respectful.
And I think that's probably why there's been so many comments on the forum today, because people can't comment on other things. And I get what you're saying, and I do think, you know, I mean, it's difficult. At the end of the day, we need that togetherness. We need to be, we don't need the negativity at the moment. We need the positivity. And I mean, Alfie's put something, on the forum tonight. And listen, at the end of the day, so that proves that people do, players, ex-players, current players probably do read and see what's going on. We know there's definitely parents on there. Listen, everybody is going to have a different view. I do agree with you that we're quite lucky in the fact that us three have this podcast to air our views, so we can say what we want without having to put it on a forum. And you're right in what you say there, Miles. And obviously, this is where, I mean, we've never really touched on this, but this is where I was so, and there were other people that we were so set on the forum staying and the forum not, because it is a place where people can voice what they want to voice. There's obviously, we do have rules. If people want to talk negatively, I don't think that is the best. I don't think that's the best thing to be doing. But I am negative at times. I know I am, because at the end of the day, I have my voice, but it's how people read it. I'm not going to say who, but someone once, not long ago said to me, "Oh, you put something on the forum." I'm like, yeah, but that's my opinion, and I'm entitled to my opinion. And I think we're all entitled to our opinions, and I think you're right in the fact of, I do understand. Listen, the official sites are their sites. If they don't want comments on there, they don't want comments. That's down to them. I'm not saying I agree with that, and that's why, today there was big news and people have been able to say what they feel, and I haven't said a lot on the forum today because I've been driving back from Minehead and whatever else, and I was leaving that for tonight, right? Because again, we have this platform where we can say what we feel. But I do feel that everybody needs that voice. I do feel everybody needs that place to, and we were. Let's be fair, when we took over the forum, I mean, obviously, Bob, you're also an admin on there. We've got a team of 7 admins now. We as admins took the decision to basically unban everybody, or most, I won't say everybody, most people that had that have been blocked or banned in the past, because to us it was a clean slate. We decided that, look, and that's why some people that are on the forum now have obviously been banned in the past. There are some people that have still been banned, and I was only speaking to one week before last, where I said to the person, look, the reason you were banned was this, and this is the steps you need to take to get yourself back on the forum. And I think if that person takes them steps, then he would be allowed back on the forum. I mean, Bob, you know what I'm talking about here. So, I think we are right and proper in saying, look, if you do steps 1 and 2, we are going to allow you back on the forum. Granted, anybody that comes on that's done something that we feel, and obviously there will be people monitoring what's going on there today, but if somebody does something that we feel is wrong, they will be told, and they will probably have to have approval for their posts for a period of time. Because we don't, as you said, Miles, and you are totally right, having an opinion, having a thought on something is right, but abuse to anybody, and especially when it's targeted at one particular person, is not right. Whoever that is doing, whoever that is that's doing the abuse. So listen, that's me on my soapbox, I suppose. Bob, you know what I'm talking about there, because obviously you've been party to them discussions. Do you agree with what I've just said? Have I not?
Yeah, I mean, listen, everyone is entitled to their opinion. You cross the line, and you cross the line, and that's it. You're gone. You can say what you want to say. There's a matter of how you say it. There's a matter of what you include in that. There's a matter of what you include in that. Listen, as I said, the three of us are here. We all have opinions. None of us cross the line, and if one of us accidentally crossed the line, we'd take it back. But there's people, I think, in the heat of the moment, will say something, and obviously, something's got to happen about that. But listen, I think over the last recent weeks, things have been said about people around the club, and they've been a bit, there's a line, and then they've crossed the line by a good mile. So I think it's about, as I said, it's a matter of saying things. It's just how you say it.
Just on a match day point of view, for tomorrow, we'll get onto the game in a minute, of course. But we've got 5 home games left, I believe, off the top of my head.
We've 10 cup games to go.
Yeah, and as we've just been saying there, I don't want to begrudge anybody's opinion or thoughts on the club, who runs the club, the manager, the players, etc. But one thing that would be really sad for me is if we do get to the end of the season and we go down, if we as a fan base have regrets about how we supported the club on a match day. This is like, if we, I think it would be really sad tomorrow if we hear chants about the board, the ownership, and that's not to say that they haven't made wrong decisions, etc. And they need to be held accountable for that. But tomorrow, Saturday, 28th of March, the 6th of April, and the 18th of April. There you go. I remembered all the home games. We gotta make sure we're back in the team, because I for sure don't want to get to the end of the season and feel like we've had regrets as a fan base, because we can't do much as a fan base. We're basically passengers in this entire thing. We're passengers and we're customers to this, club essentially. We go every week and we give our support, and we cheer lads on, and they need everything they can get currently. We're in a dire situation, and whether you agree with decisions or you back the ownership, people say like if Simon in or Simon out, or if you agree with the management decision, whatever it may be, like just back the lads, please. Because I don't want to go down. No one wants to go down. If we do go down, it'd be depressing. And that's the point where we can start having conversations, and people can, not do what they want. Because obviously I'm not promoting anyone, getting, going over the line, shall we say. But at the end of the season is the point of time where Phipps said it in an interview. That's probably what I'm trying to get to. Phipps said in an interview a couple of weeks ago that, at the end of the season, if you want to say a piece then, crack on. But until this point, we can definitely stay up. And realistically, if we stay up now, and Steve King is the right man going forward, then we're in for a good summer hopefully. And he's got a track record of getting clubs playoff finals, which I'm buzzing for. If we get playoff final of National League South, then hopefully won't go to penalties by the sound of his record. But, yeah, so that's my.
He needs to get penalty taking coaching.
Maybe so. Yeah, that's my plea. Like, if you go in tomorrow, I know not everyone listens to this. I'm not naive to the fact that we've got 300 people listening to it, which is obviously great. We appreciate for everyone that watches it, but that's going to be a small minority the attendance tomorrow. But if you are listening to it, please back the lads. We don't want to hear anything about behind the scenes stuff, or just stuff that's not topical, I guess, to back in the boys.
Yeah.
I hope that's fair, by the way. I don't want to rattle people with that.
Agree.
Or...
I think Simon and Simon has openly said before, and listen, if they get things wrong, they get things wrong. But he's openly said, look, come and speak to me. He's not going to run away and hide. He's there to speak to, most of the time, Alan the same. So look, they're there if people have questions. I mean, obviously on a match day, especially with Alan, Alan's trying to make sure everything's going smoothly. So sometimes he hasn't got that time, but yeah, I just say that they're there, and if you want to approach them, I'm sure and I hope you get a favourable response. So obviously, Miles, you were talking a bit there about the fan base tomorrow, and let's get behind the team.
Mm-hmm. Fresh start.
Yes, Ebbsfleet at home. We got a new, and I will just say as well, by the way, sorry, a couple of weeks ago, obviously we had Ben Austin on, who had one claim to that he had a 100% record. He was the only borough manager to have a 100% record in the Sussex Senior Cup. Well, unfortunately now, Ben, there's two of you, and that will be Robbie Blake as well, because obviously he won last Tuesday. So yeah, we move on to tomorrow. What's your thoughts on tomorrow, Bob? I'll come to you first.
Ebbsfleet, obviously, they've been a bit topsy turvy. I mean, they beat Torquay on the weekend. I mean, everyone beats Torquay. I mean, even we beat them. So
Poor Torquay.
Yeah, sorry, Tom, if you're watching this. I know you.
Yeah,
I've never met Tom, but he probably don't like me.
Oh, top guy, don't diss Tom.
Tom won't want to meet you now, Bob.
No, he won't. Well, we might even be in the division next year, so we might even get a chance. So no, but listen, they're up there at the moment. It's going to be a tough game. I say it quietly, but manager bounce might be in our favour. We've had a nice little track record. Well, Ebbsfleet had a nice little track record against us. I mean, I can remember playing them at our place a few years ago. They won 3-2 with their goalkeeper getting sent off. Listen, as much as I want us to win tomorrow, I don't think we will. I think Ebbsfleet, obviously, they're above us. Everyone's above us at the moment. We're obviously rock bottom. I think they're going to... I don't know. It's hard to tell. On a Robbie Blake, I'd say we'd stand, an all right chance. But with tomorrow, I'm going into it unknown. We will see what happens. We win, and we're back in. We win, and we're back in it. With 9 games to go, I think we just got to mark their big threat. So they got Koethi Appiah. Obviously the former Bournemouth striker. They got Ryan Sanford in goal, who played for us at the beginning of this season. Whether he'll start, I don't know. They've also got Charlie Seaman, played for Maidstone last year, good little right back. So they've also got some. They've got some threats. Listen, it's going to be hard. We've got to do what we can. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Miles, your thoughts tomorrow night?
Yeah, I mean, in some ways I feel like it's a pretty good game to have. Because whilst Ebbsfleet on alright form, they've drawn a lot of games. They're not flying. And they've just had the win against Torquay, which will obviously lift them. And then, I mean, they could potentially get complacent coming down to us. Obviously, we've got a new manager, so they'll be obviously mindful of that. But they're going to be coming down to us, expecting to win, because they're 4th and we're 24th. And if we can get the form and play Steve's way, whatever that may be, we could be looking at a decent result. They're Ebbsfleet and not PSG. We can definitely do something against them. And let's make no bones about it. If we lose on this Tuesday, we then got 8 games. So we can't be looking at games like Chelmsford, Ebbsfleet, Worthing is like, oh, that's a nice free hit. We've got to try and get points out of them. There's no question about it. But our record against Ebbsfleet and Gravesend and Northfleet, as they're previously known, is horrendous at home. We've never beat them at home ever, as far as I'm aware. I've gone back for the fixtures to 2005 and I can't find a single win. So a couple of draws in there, mind. But yeah, we won there a few times away. We won there a couple of times away under Blur, I believe, in the same season. But yeah, home form against Ebbsfleet is not good, but past games don't count for much realistically, do they? It's just a trivial stat. So yeah, I feel like I like to be optimistic, so I feel like we can get a draw. We went there in October under Matt Gray. Obviously, it was turned out to be his last game in charge. And they weren't all that really, were they? I mean, we gave him a decent game, and we were horrendous then. So yeah, I'm sort of quietly confident. Steve said he knows Josh Wright, the manager there, fairly well. He's obviously studied the level over many years. He's basically got a dissertation in National League South with Steve King at this point. Yes. So he won't need any what's the word I'm looking for? He'd have done his homework. Let's put it that way. He won't have any surprises with how you're going to approach this game. So I'm quietly confident. I feel like we might be able to nick it, but a point is not a horrendous result. And even if we can get one win out of the next two, being Maidenhead, another playoff team on Saturday, I think that's a good return. Even I've just said we need as many points as possible from games, but I'm not stupid in the sense that I know that these next two games are going to be tough for us. So yeah, hopefully get a decent crowd. I'd imagine a lot of people will come down for the Steve King debut as it were. Just to add as well, I think it feels a bit like I'm not sure what I'm looking for. Maybe is it fever dream is the right word, or like just a alternate reality that we've got Steve King in charge. I feel like I've been supported, like I've said there, for last 5 years properly and 10 years altogether. And Steve King has always been like this a figure at a distance, this man that gets mentioned when we need a manager. He's like, oh, it's Steve King. Steve King is available. He's like some bloke that just he's always cropping up. And people have obviously said many different things about him in the past, and he's like some mystic figure that we haven't quite tested yet. So it's like we've got to scratch that itch, and whether it goes brilliantly well, which hopefully it does. Hopefully, it leads us into the EFL. That'll be the dream, right? Ambitious.
Jesus Christ, Miles.
That's the dream, though, isn't it?
Right, you've not just heard what I've said of you. You've not read Twitter. You've read Twitter in the last 6 hours, haven't you?
That's the dream, though, isn't it? That's the dream.
It's a dream to get into the EFL, but
yeah, that's that's the best it could possibly go. The worst it could go, he could theoretically bankrupt us, and we'll end up playing Eastbourne United and Horsham YM again. So,
but again, I don't think that Steve King can bankrupt us. That's the thing.
No, I was joking, Baz. I was joking.
Yeah,
I was tongue in cheek.
I know that. I was trying to encourage Bob. But look, at the end of the day, listen. I'm with you. I think that obviously I think I can't remember the first time I saw Steve recently at the game. I think it might have actually been the Torquay game.
That's why he rocked up in that in the like someone out of Backstreet Boys. He rocked up in the white coat and the white jeans. I think it started to gravitate that I'm not a big fan.
I think that was the game. I think it was Torquay. So you would expect that obviously the process was in motion then, or at least the application would have gone in. So you would have hoped that in anticipation, and obviously whenever the interview process was with the club, you would have thought that he'd have been watching us and B our opponents to see, what he could do, and more our opponents really, right? Because at the end of the day, he would have access to, on a home level, he'd have access to footage if he wanted to see it. So, and also obviously he's got Robbie and his team, right? Who was in the dugout on Saturday. So, I think, you would like to think, look, Steve is a professional at his job, and that he's done his homework, and he will. I'm sure he will be going into tomorrow with a bit of confidence, or at least believing that he can get a result, but not putting himself and the players. And that was something I quite liked in the interview today. Was, he basically didn't say, he was saying about, the other teams around us have played a lot of games and or played a lot less games than us. We've played more games, and that's basically the problem. It's not the position in the league table; it's the fact that other teams have played a lot less games than us. But I mean, I think there are teams out there that are struggling, form wise and also personnel wise. We've got a few injuries at the moment, but Bath, who have got how many games in hand have they got of us now? Is it four? Four. I understand that they're struggling big time. I don't think they've got a fit striker at the moment, and they're struggling to put a side out every week. And so look, if that continues for them, we had exactly the same with Taunton, right? Taunton, that season that we stayed up, had a couple of injuries and ended up playing 3 times a week. I think we're mostly Saturday, Tuesday now until towards the end of the season. So, they any get called off for them, and they could be on that 3 a week again. And listen, at the end of the day, we have to have faith. I'm quite looking forward to seeing what happens tomorrow, to seeing the style of football, to seeing how Steve's been able to implement his style in the short time yesterday or today even, and obviously we don't know what work he's been doing with Robbie. And, it was announced today, but we don't know what access he's had to, and quite rightly we shouldn't know that. But, that's down to, the decision lies solely with the club. And like I say, I'm quite optimistic about tomorrow. And, I like any game down the lane under lights. So, I enjoy it. So
Not fussy, Baz. Not fussy. Can I just add finally as well? You're not fussy with any game down the lane with the lights on. They'll do. Doesn't matter who's in charge. Can I just add finally? Like it would just be great to see some stability now. Like I really want Steve to do well, and I just would love to have a manager for at least a few seasons, because we had so many. We've chopped and changed, so for different reasons, right? Obviously, some of them are in our control, some are out of control, whatever. You can pick the bones out for every single one of them that's been sacked for the last, how many managers has Simon moved on now? Or Simon, Allen, whatever it may be.
6.
Blur, Beard, Murray, Gray, Widrington. So that's 5 that he's had a hand in moving on. That's in the space of, what was that, 3 years? Crazy numbers. Like if let's just hope that Steve King's here for a good few years, because we can't keep changing direction, paying out managers. It's not a good look for the club, and I'm sure it's not what they want either. Let's hope this one works and it's for the long term.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I think I think that we all want that stability. You go back to the days when, like I say, I keep referring to our pod with Ben, but you go back to them days when we had Gary Wilson at the club for 13 years, and he had his squad of players, and he knew how to work with them. He knew how to, and he just added when he needed to. And I think that, that's massive when it comes to, when it comes to our level of football. So, yeah, I'm with you. I just want to see a bit of stability now, Miles. I want to see a bit of, whoever's in charge, and obviously that is Steve King. So, I just want to see a manager grab the job by the balls and say, right, this is, this is my job, and this is what I want to do, And we just need to, as Eastbourne Borough fans, we need to get behind whoever it is in charge. You know, it could be Mrs. Brown.
Up Steve King's Eastbourne Borough. That wasn't on my bingo card.
We need to, you know, we need to get behind them. So, yeah, that's the case. So, we don't do predictions anymore because we always get them wrong, unless we all predict.
Yeah, 6-0 Borough.
Well, because we get them wrong, if we predict Ebbsfleet, we might get there. But yeah, no, I mean, obviously, we'll see you all down the lane tomorrow. Been a bit of a long one tonight because obviously we've had a lot to catch up on. And let's see how it goes with Steve. But like I say, you've got one really optimistic here, you've got one sitting on the fence, and you've got one who's hiding behind the fence.
Heads on Mars.
Fucking further than Mars. I'm sorry, but there's Mars and my head's gone, mate. Different galaxy. Honestly, man.
Yeah, we've got to draw you back, and
the jury will be out. The jury's out, and we'll have judgment in Essex in the 2025
Miles. I think,
and beyond that.
I think that is it. I think that is it. The jury is out with a lot of people, and you know the evidence needs to be shown, and I'm sure it will be. I am just banking on the fact that, you know, a man who has wanted this job for so long and applied for it so many times has finally got it.
Don't cock it up. He's been after it for so long. He's got the chance now. Sorry, Baz, I know I've jumped in.
That.
But
no,
he's got
exactly that, Bob, and that's what I want. I want him to get hold of it, and I'm sure that's what everybody who's a supporter of Eastbourne Borough, you know, will want the club to stay up and obviously be successful. So, guys, thanks for tonight. See you all tomorrow at the club, and up the sports.